Today we are covering Salesforce Certified Platform Developer 1 PD1. To find the complete list of questions and answers, please go to the playlist link provided in the description. If you like this content, do like, share and subscribe to this channel. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is, what is the order of operations when a record is saved in Salesforce? Option A, workflow, process flows, triggers, commit. Option B, process flows, triggers, workflow, commit. Option C, triggers, workflow, process flows, commit. Option D, workflow, triggers, process flows, commit. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, Universal Containers UC decided it will not send emails to support personal directory from Salesforce in the event that an unhandled exception occurs. Instead, UC wants an external system be notified of the error. What is the appropriate publish subscribe logic to meet these requirements? Option A, publish the error event using the add error method and write a trigger to subscribe to the event and notify the external system. Option B, publish the error event using the eventBus.publish method and have the external system subscribe to the event using commit D. Option C, have the external system subscribe to the batch apex error event. No publishing is necessary. Option D, publish the error event using the add error method and have the external system subscribe to the event using commit D. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, a developer observes that an apex test method fails in the sandbox. To identify the issue, the developer copies the code inside the test method and executes it via the execute anonymous tool in the developer console. The code then executes with no exceptions or errors. Why did the test method fail in the sandbox and pass in the developer console? Option A, the test method has a syntax error in the code. Option B, the test method does not use system.runAs to execute as a specific user. Option C, the test method is calling an addFuture method. Option D, the test method relies on existing data in the sandbox. Correct answer is option D. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is, a custom pick list field food underscore preference underscore C exists on a custom object. The pick list contains the following options: vegan, kosher, no preference. The developer must ensure a value is populated every time a record is created or updated. What is the most efficient way to ensure a value is selected every time a record is saved? Option A, mark the field as required on the field definition. Option B, set use the first value in the list as the default value as true. Option C, mark the field as required on the object's page layout. Option D, set a validation rule to enforce a value is selected. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, a developer must create an Apex class contact controller that a Lightning component can use to search for Contact records. Users of the Lightning component should only be able to search for contact records to which they have access. Which two will restrict the records correctly? Choose two options. Option A. Public class contact controller. Option B. Public with sharing class contact controller. Option C. Public without sharing class contact controller. Option D. Public inherited sharing class contact controller. Correct answer is option B and option D. Next question is which aspect of Apex programming is limited due to multi-latency? Option A. The number of methods in an Apex class. It's multi-tenancy. Option B. The number of records returned from database queries. Option C. The number of active Apex classes. Option D. The number of records processed in a loop. Correct answer is option B. Next question is what will be the output in the debug log in the event of a query exception during a call to a query method in the following example? Option A. Querying accounts query exception. Option B. Querying accounts custom exception. Option C. Querying accounts custom exception done. Option D. Querying accounts query exception done. Correct answer is option C. Next question is when a user edits the postal code on an account, a custom account text field named time zone must be updated based on the values in a postal code to time zone underscore C custom object. How should a developer implement this feature? Option A. Build an account workflow rule. Option B. Build an account assignment rule. Option C. Build an account custom triggers. Option D. Build an account approval process. Correct answer is option C. Next question is a developer must provide a custom user interface when users edit a contact. Users must be able to use the interface in Salesforce Classic and Lightning Experience. What should the developer do to provide the custom user interface? Option A. Override the contacts edit button with a Visualforce page in Salesforce Classic and a Lightning component in the Lightning experience. Option B. Override the contacts edit button with a Visualforce page in Salesforce Classic and a Lightning page in Lightning experience. Option C. Override the Contacts Edit button with a Lightning component in Salesforce Classic and a Lightning component in Lightning Experience. Option D. Override the Contacts Edit button with a Lightning page in Salesforce Classic and a Visualforce page in Lightning Experience. Correct answer is option A. Next question is Universal Containers UC uses a custom object called vendor. The vendor custom object has a master detail relationship with the standard account object. Based on some internal discussions, the UC administrator tried to change the master detail relationship on a lookup relationship but was not able to do so. What is a possible reason that this change was not permitted? Option A. The vendor records have existing values in the account object. Option B. The account object is included on a workflow on the vendor object. Option C. The account records contain vendor rollup summary fields. Option D. The vendor object must use a master detailed field for reporting. Correct answer is option C. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is Universal Containers wants a list button to display a visual force page that allows users to edit multiple records. Which visual force feature supports this requirement? Option A Apex list button tag. Option B record set where page attribute. Option C custom controller. Option D controller extension. Correct answer is option B. Next question is a developer writes a trigger on the account object on the before update event that increments a count field. A workflow rule also increments the count field every time that an account is created or updated. The field update in the workflow rule is configured to not re-evaluate workflow rules. What is the value of the count field if an account is inserted with an initial value of 0, assuming no other automation logic is implemented on the account? Option A 1, Option B 3, Option C 4, Option D 2. Correct answer is option B. Next question is which Salesforce org has a complete duplicate copy of the production org including data and configuration? Option A Developer Pro Sandbox. Option B Partial Copy Sandbox. Option C Production. Option D Full Sandbox. Correct answer is option D. Next question is how should a developer write unit tests for a private method in an Apex class? Option A add a test method in the Apex class. Option B mark the Apex class as global. Option C use the CA11 all data annotation. See all data annotation. Option D use the test visible annotation. Correct answer is option D. Next question is what are two ways a developer can get the status of an unqueued job for a class that implements the queuable interface? Choose two options. Option A view the Apex jobs page. Option B view the Apex status page. Option C query the async Apex job object. Option D view the Apex Flex queue. Correct answer is option A and option C. Next question is which process and automation should be used to send an outbound message without using Apex code? Option A Flow Builder. Option B Process Builder. Option C Workflow Rule. Option D Approval Process. Correct answer is option C. Next question is how does the Lightning Component framework help developers implement solutions faster? Option A by providing an agile process with default steps. Option B by providing code review standards and processes. Option C by providing device awareness for mobile and desktops. Option D by providing change history and version control. Correct answer is option C. Next question is which three wave technologies can be integrated into a Visual Force page? Choose three options. Option A JavaScript. Option B CSS. Option C Java. Option D PHP. Option E HTML. Correct answer is option B, C and option E. Next question is what should be used to create Scratch orgs? Option A Developer Console. Option B Salesforce CLI. Option C Workbench. Option D Sandbox Refresh. Correct answer is option B. Next question is a developer wrote Apex code that calls out to an external system. How should a developer write the test to provide test coverage? Option A. Write a class that implements the HTTP callout mock interface. Option B. Write a class that extends HTTP callout mock. Option C. Write a class that extends web service mock. Option D. Write a class that implements the web service mock interface. Correct answer is option A. Next question is which two operations can be performed using a formula field? Choose two options. Option A. Displaying the last four digits of an encrypted social security number. Option B. Triggering a process builder. Option C. Displaying an image based on the opportunity amount. Option D. Calculating a score on a lead based on the information from other field. Correct answer is option C and option D. Next question is Universal Containers stores orders and line items in Salesforce. For security reasons, financial representatives are allowed to see information on the order such as order amount, but they are not allowed to see the line items on the order. Which type of relationship should be used? Option A. Direct lookup. Option B. Indirect lookup. Option C. Master detail. Option D. Lookup. Correct answer is option C. Next question is the sales management team at Universal Containers requires that the lead source field of the lead record be populated when a lead is converted. What should be used to ensure that a user populates the lead source field prior to converting a lead? Option A. Workflow rule. Option B. Validation rule. Option C. Formula field. Option D. Process builder. Correct answer is option B. Next question is how many accounts will be inserted by the following block of code? Option A 100. Option B 150. Option C 0. Option D 500. Correct answer is option C. Next question is Universal Containers uses a simple order management app. On the order lines, the order line total is calculated by multiplying the item price with the quantity ordered. There is a master detail relationship between the order and the order lines object. What is the best practice to get the sum of all order line totals on the order header? Option A. Declarative roll-up summaries app. Option B. Roll-up summary field. Option C. Process builder. Option D. Apex trigger. Correct answer is option A. Next question is which two are phases in the Salesforce application event propagation framework? Choose two options. Option A. Bubble. Option B. Default. Option C. Control. Option D. Emit. Correct answer is option A and option B. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is which two events need to happen when deploying to a production org? Choose two options. Option A. All process builder processes must have at least 1% test coverage. Option B. All Apex code must have at least 75% test coverage. Option C. All triggers must have at least 1% test coverage. Option D. All visual flows must have at least 1% test coverage. Correct answer is option B and option C. Next question is, a developer uses a loop to check each contact in a list. When a contact with the title of boss is found, the Apex method should jump to the first line of code outside of the for loop. Which Apex solution will let the developer implement this requirement? Option A, return. Option B, continue. Option C, break. Option D, system.assert false. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, Universal Containers UC wants to lower its shipping cost while making the shipping process more efficient. The distribution officer advises UC to implement global addresses to allow multiple accounts to share a default pickup address. The developer is tasked to create the supporting object and relationship for this business requirement and uses the setup menu to create a custom object called global address. Which field should the developer add to create the most efficient model that supports the business need? Option A, add a master detail field on the global address object to the account object. Option B, add a master detail field on the account object to the global address object. Option C, add a lookup field on the global address object to the account object. Option D, add a lookup field on the account object to the global address object. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer has a requirement to create an order when an opportunity reaches a closed-won status. Which tool should be used to implement this requirement? Option A, Lightning Component. Option B, Apex Trigger. Option C, Lightning Flow. Option D, Process Builder. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, a team of developers is working on a source-driven project that allows them to work independently with many different org configurations. Which type of Salesforce orgs should they use for their development? Option A, developer orgs. Option B, developer sandboxes. Option C, full copy sandboxes. Option D, scratch orgs. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer creates a new Apex trigger with a helper class and writes a test class that only exercises 95% coverage of the new Apex helper class. Change set deployment to production fails with the test coverage warning. Test coverage of selected Apex trigger is 0%, at least 1% test coverage is required. What should the developer do to successfully deploy the new Apex trigger and helper class? Option A, increase the test class coverage on the helper class. Option B, remove the failing test methods from the test class. Option C, run the tests using run all tests method. Option D, create a test class and methods to cover the Apex triggers. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer must build an application that tracks which accounts have purchased specific pieces of equipment that are represented as products. Each account could purchase many pieces of equipment. How should the developer track that an account has purchased a piece of equipment? Option A, use the asset object. Option B, use a master detail on product to account. Option C, use a custom object. Option D, use a lookup on account to product. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, Where are two locations a developer can look to find information about the status of asynchronous or future calls? Choose two options. Option A, time-based workflow monitor. Option B, Apex Flex queue. Option C, Apex jobs. Option D, paused flow interviews component. Correct answer is option B and option C. Next question is, a developer is asked to create a Visualforce page that displays some account fields as well as fields configured on the page layout for related contacts. How should the developer implement this request? Option A. Use the Apex include tag. Option B. Use the Apex related list tag. Option C. Add a method to the standard controller. Option D. Create a controller extension. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, what does the Lightning Component framework provide to developers? Option A. Support for Classic and Lightning UIs. Option B. Templates to create custom components. Option C. Extended governor limits for applications. Option D. Pre-built components that can be reused. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer writes a single trigger on the account object on the after insert and after update events. A workflow rule modifies a field every time an account is created or updated. How many times will the trigger fire if a new account is inserted, assuming no other automation logic is implemented on the account? Option A 8, Option B 1, Option C 4, Option D 2. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer needs to implement the functionality for a service agent to gather multiple pieces of information from a customer in order to send a replacement credit card. Which automation tool meets these requirements? Option A. Lightning Component. Option B. Flow Builder. Option C. Process Builder. Option D. Approval Process. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, a recursive transaction is initiated by a DML statement creating records for these two objects. First, accounts. Second, contacts. The account trigger hits a stack depth of 16. Which statement is true regarding the outcome of the transaction? Option A. The transaction fails and all the changes are rolled back. Option B. The transaction succeeds as long as the contact trigger stack depth is less than 16. Option C. The transaction fails only if the contact trigger stack depth is greater or equal to 16. Option D. The transaction succeeds and all changes are committed to the database. Correct answer is option D. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is, a developer at Universal Containers is tasked with implementing a new Salesforce application that must be able to maintained completely by their company's Salesforce administrator. Which three options should be considered for building out the business logic layer of the application? Choose three options. Option A, Process Builder. Option B, Scheduled Jobs. Option C, Invocable Actions. Option D, Workflows. Option E, Validation Rules. Correct answer is option A, D and option E. Next question is Universal Containers wants to back up all of the data and attachments in its Salesforce org once a month. Which approach should a developer use to meet these requirements? Option A. Define a data export schedule job. Option B. Use the data loader command line. Option C. Schedule a report. Option D. Create a schedulable Apex class. Correct answer is option A. Next question is which exception type cannot be caught? Option A. Limit exception. Option B. No access exception. Option C. A custom exception. Option D. Callout exception. Correct answer is option A. Next question is Universal Containers stores the availability data on each line item of an order, and orders are the only shipped when all of the line items are available. Which method should be used to calculate the estimated ship date for an order? Option A. Use a latest formula on each of the latest availability date fields. Option B. Use a ceiling formula on each of the latest availability date fields. Option C. Use a days formula on each of the availability date fields and a count roll-up summary field on the order. Option D. Use a max roll-up summary field on the latest availability date fields. Correct answer is option D. Next question is Universal Containers has an order system that uses an order number to identify an order for customers and service agents. Order records will be imported into Salesforce. How should the order number field be defined in Salesforce? Option A. Direct lookup. Option B. Lookup. Option C. Number with external ID. Option D. Indirect lookup. Correct answer is option C. Next question is a developer needs to have records with specific field values in order to test a new Apex class. What should the developer do to ensure the data is available to the test? Option A. Use SOQL to query the org for the required data. Option B. Use anonymous Apex to create the required data. Option C. Use test.loaddata and reference a CSV file. Option D. Use test.loaddata and reference a static resource. Correct answer is option D. Next question is which two statements are true about getter and setter methods? Choose two options. Option A. Setter methods allows have to be declared global. Always have to be declared global. Option B. Setter methods are required to pass a value from a page to a controller. Option C. There is no guarantee for the order in which getter or setter methods are executed. Option D. Getter methods can pass a value from a controller to a page. Correct answer is option B and option C. Next question is what is a benefit of developing applications in a multi-tenant environment? Option A. Access to predefined computing resources. Option B. Enforced best practices for development. Option C. Unlimited processing power and memory. Option D. Default out-of-the-box configuration. Correct answer is option B. Next question is a developer needs to confirm that a contact trigger works correctly without changing the organization's data. What should the developer do to test the contact trigger? Option A. Use deploy from the VS Code IDE to deploy an insert contact Apex class. Option B. Use the New button on the Salesforce Contacts tab to create a new contact record. Option C. Use the Open Executive Anonymous feature on the Developer Console to run an Insert Contact DML statement. Option D. Use the Test menu on the Developer Console to run all the test classes for the contact triggers. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, which two statements are valid regarding Apex classes and interfaces? Choose two options. Option A. Classes are final by default. Option B. Interface methods are public by default. Option C. Inner classes are private by default. Option D. A class can only have one inner class label. Correct answer is option B and option D. Next question is, what are the three characteristics of change set deployments? Choose three options. Option A. They require a deployment connection. Option B. They can be used to transfer records. Option C. They can be used only between related organizations. Option D. They can be used to deploy custom settings data. Option E. They use an all or none deployment model. Correct answer is option A, C, and option E. Next question is, when importing and exporting data into Salesforce, which two statements are true? Choose two options. Option A. Bulk API can be used to import large data volumes in development environments without bypassing the storage limits. Option B. Developer and Developer Pro sandboxes have different storage limits. Option C. Bulk API can be used to bypass the storage limits when importing large data volumes in development environments. Option D. Data Import Wizard is a client application provided by Salesforce. Correct answer is option B and option D. Next question is, what is an example of a polymorphic lookup field in Salesforce? Option A. The what ID field on the standard event object. Option B. The parent ID field on the standard account object. Option C. A custom field link underscore C on the standard contact object that looks up to an account or a campaign. Option D. The lead ID and contact ID fields on the standard campaign member object. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer is implementing an Apex class for a financial system. Within the class, the variables credit amount and debit amount should not be able to change once a value is assigned. In which two ways can the developer declare the variables to ensure their value can only be assigned one time? Choose two options. Option A. Use the static keyword and assign its value in a static initializer. Option B. Use the final keyword and assign its value when declaring the variable. Option C. Use the final keyword and assign its value in the class constructor. Option D. Use the static keyword and assign its value in the class constructor. Correct answer is option B and option C. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is, Universal Containers wants to assess the advantages of declarative development versus programmatic customization for specific use cases in its Salesforce implementation. What are two advantages of declarative development over programmatic customization? Choose two options. Option A. Declarative development has higher design limit and query limits. Option B. Declarative development does not require Apex test classes. Option C. Declarative development does not require maintenance. Option D. Declarative development can be updated in production using the setup UI. Correct answer is option B and option D. Next question is, given the following anonymous block, what should a developer consider for an environment that has over 10,000 case records? Option A. The transaction will succeed and changes will be committed. Option B. The transaction will fail due to exceeding the governor limit. Option C. The try-catch block will handle any DML exceptions thrown. Option D. The try-catch block will handle exceptions thrown by governor limits. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, a developer has two custom controller extensions where each has a save method. Which save method will be called for the following Visualforce page? Option A. Extension A save method. Option B. Extension B save method. Option C. Standard controller save method. Option D. Runtime error will be generated. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, universal containers wants opportunities to be logged from editing when reaching the closed won stage. Which two strategies should a developer use to accomplish this? Choose two options. Option A. Use a flow builder. Option B. Use a validation rule. Option C. Use the process automation settings. Option D. Mark fields as read-only on the page layout. Correct answer is option B and option D. Next question is, what are two benefits of the Lightning Component Framework? Choose two options. Option A. It simplifies complexity when building pages but not applications. Option B. It provides an event-driven architecture for better decoupling between components. Option C. It promotes faster development using out-of-box components that are suitable for desktop and mobile devices. Option D. It allows faster PDF generation with Lightning components. Correct answer is option B and option C. Next question is, a method is passed a list of generic S objects as a parameter. What should the developer do to determine which object type, account, lead, or contact, for example, to cast each S object? Option A. Use the first three characters of the S object ID to determine the S object type. Option B. Use the getSObjectType method on each generic S object to retrieve the S object token. Option C. Use the getSObjectName method on the S object class to get the S object name. Option D. Use a try-catch construct to cast the S object into one of the three S object types. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, what should a developer use to implement an automatic approval process submission for cases? Option A. An assignment rule of this. Option B. Scheduled Apex. Option C. Process builder. Option D. A workflow rule. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, when viewing a quote, the sales representative wants to easily see How many discounted items are included in the quote line items? What should a developer do to meet this requirement? Option A. Create a trigger on the quote object that queries the quantity field on discounted quote line items. Option B. Create a workflow rule on the quote line item object that updates a field on the parent quote when the item is discounted. Option C. Create a roll-up summary field on the quote object that performs a sum on the quote line item quantity field, filtered for only discounted quote line items. Option D. Create a formula field on the quote object that performs a sum on the quote line item quantity field, filtered for only discounted quote line items. Correct answer is option C. Question is, a developer wants to get access to the standard price book in the org while writing a test class that covers an opportunity line item triggers. Which method allows access to the price book? Option A. Use test.getStandardPriceBookId method to get the standard price book ID. Option B. Use at isTest see all data is equals to true and delete the existing standard price book. Option C. Use test.loadData method and a static resource to load a standard price book. Option D. Use at testVisible to allow the test method to see the standard price book. Correct answer is option A. Next question is, where can a developer identify the time taken by each process in a transaction using Developer Console Log Inspector? Option A. Performance Tree tab under Stack Tree panel. Option B. Execution Tree tab under Stack Tree panel. Option C. Timeline tab under Execution Overview panel. Option D. Save Order tab under Execution Overview panel. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, which two platform features align to the controller portion of MVC architecture? Choose two options. Option A. Process Builder Actions. Option B. Workflow Rules. Option C. Standard Objects. Option D. Date Fields. Correct answer is option A and option B. Next question is, a developer needs to test an invoicing system integration. After reviewing the number of transactions required for the test, the developer estimates that the test data will total about 2 GB of data storage. Production data is not required for the integration testing. Which two environments meet the requirements for testing? Choose two options. Option A. Developer Sandbox. Option B. Full Sandbox. Option C. Developer Edition. Option D. Partial Sandbox. Option E. Developer Pro Sandbox. Correct answer is option B and option D. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is, a developer encounters apex heap limit errors in a trigger. Which two methods should the developer use to avoid this error? Choose two options. Option A. Use the transient keyword when declaring variables. Option B. Query and store fields from the related object in a collection when updating related objects. Option C. Remove or set collections to null after use. Option D. Use SOQL for loops instead of assigning large queries results to a single collection and looping through the collection? Correct answer is option A and option D. Next question is, which approach should be used to provide test data for a test class? Option A. Query for existing records in the database. Option B. Execute anonymous code blocks that create data. Option C. Use a test data factory class to create test data. Option D. Access data in at test visible class variables. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, what is the requirement for a class to be used as a custom visual force controller? Option A. Any top-level Apex class that has a constructor that returns a page reference. Option B. Any top-level Apex class that extends a page reference. Option C. Any top-level Apex class that has a default no argument constructor. Option D. Any top-level Apex class that implements the controller interface. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a newly hired developer discovers that there are multiple triggers on the case object. What should the developer consider when working with triggers? Option A. Developers must dictate the order of trigger execution. Option B. Trigger execution order is based on creation date and time. Option C. Unit test must specify the trigger being tested. Option D. Trigger execution order is not guaranteed for the same S object. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, how should a developer prevent a recursive trigger? Option A. Use a one trigger per object pattern. Option B. Use a static Boolean variable. Option C. Use a trigger handler. Option D. Use a private Boolean variable. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, which three options can be accomplished with formula field? Choose three options. Option A. Generate a link using the hyperlink function to a specific record. Option B. Display the previous value for a field using the prior value function. Option C. Determine if a date-time field value has passed using the now function. Option D. Return and display a field value from another object using the VLOOKUP function. Option E. Determine which of the three different images to display using the IF function. Correct answer is option A, C and option E. Next question is, what is a capability of this tag that is used for loading external JavaScript libraries in Lightning component? Choose three options. Option A. Loading files from documents. Option B. One-time loading for duplicate scripts. Option C. Specifying loading order. Option D. Loading scripts in parallel. Option E. Loading externally hosted scripts. Correct answer is option B, C and option D. Next question is, in a single record, a user selects multiple values from a multi-select pick list. How are the selected values represented in Apex? Option A. As a list string with each value as an element in the list. Option B. As a string with each value separated by a comma. Option C. As a string with each value separated by a semicolon. Option D. As a set string with each value as an element in the set. Correct answer is option C. Next question is, a developer writes the following code. What is the result of the debug statement? Option A 1100, option B 1150, option C 2150, option D 2200. Correct answer is option C. Next question is Universal Containers wants opportunities to be logged from editing when reaching the closed won stage. Which two strategies should a developer use to accomplish this? Choose two options. Option A. Use a visual workflow. Option B. Use a validation rule. Option C. Use the process automation settings. Option D. Use a trigger. Correct answer is option B and option D. Next question is a platform developer at Universal Containers needs to create a custom button for the account object that, when clicked, will perform a series of calculations and redirect the user to a custom Visualforce page. Which three attributes need to be defined with the value in the Apex page tag to accomplish this? Choose three options. Option A. Action. Option B. Render as. Option C. Standard controller. Option D. Read only. Option E. Extensions. Correct answer is option A, B and option C. Next question is using the schema builder, a developer tries to change the API name of a field that is referenced in an Apex test class. What is the end result? Option A. The API name is not changed and there are no other impacts. Option B. The API name of the field and the reference in the test class is changed. Option C. The API name of the field is changed and a warning is issued to update the class. Option D. The API name of the field and the reference in the test class is updated. Correct answer is option C. These are the top 50 most common certification questions that you could have in your exam. If you want to download the complete list of current updated questions, please download it from the link provided in the description. Question is, when is an Apex trigger required instead of a process builder process? Option A, when a record needs to be created. Option B, when multiple records related to the triggering record needs to be updated. Option C, when a post to chatter needs to be created. Option D, when an action needs to be taken on a delete or undelete or before a DML operation is executed. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, which approach should a developer use to add pagination to a Visualforce page? Option A standard controller. Option B, the action attribute for a page. Option C, the extensions attribute for a page. Option D, a standard set controller. Correct answer is option D. Next question is, a developer is asked to create a PDF code document formatted using the company's branding guidelines and automatically save it to the opportunity record. Which two ways should a developer create this functionality? Choose two options. Option A. Install an application from the App Exchange to generate documents. Option B. Create a Visualforce page with custom styling. Option C. Create an email template and use it in Process Builder. Option D. Create a visual flow that implements the company's formatting. Correct answer is option A and option B. Next question is, which tool allows a developer to send requests to the Salesforce REST APIs and view the responses? Option A. REST resource path URL. Option B. Workbench REST Explorer. Option C. Developer Console REST tab. Option D. Force.com IDE REST Explorer tab. Correct answer is option B. Next question is, which two strategies should a developer use to avoid hitting governor limits when developing in a multi-tenant environment? Choose two options. Option A. Use collections to store all fields from a related object and not just minimally required fields. Option B. Use methods from the limits class to monitor governor limits. Option C. Use SOQL for loops to iterate data retrieved from queries that return a high number of rows. Option D. Use variables within Apex classes to store large amounts of data. Correct answer is option B and option C. Next question is, which three tools can deploy metadata to production? Choose three options. Option A. Change set from developer.org. Option B. Force.com IDE. Option C. Data loader. Option D. Change set from sandbox. Option E. Metadata API. Correct answer is option A, D and option E.